This story took place in a small village beside a dark, dense forest full of secrets. For generations, the villagers knew, after sunset, it was best to avoid the woods. Everyone told chilling stories of forest spirits, strange whispers echoing from the depths, and people who dared to enter at night, only to never return. One autumn night, 18-year-old Alexei, a fearless young man from a neighboring village, decided to test himself and find out if these stories were true. He wanted to prove to his friends that it was all nonsense and superstition. Alexei went into the forest as dusk fell, with mist swirling over the ground and the sun sinking behind the horizon. He took a flashlight, a sleeping bag, a knife, an old notebook, and his phone. His friends tried to talk him out of it, but he just laughed, reassuring them he'd be back by morning, alive and well. He challenged himself to spend the night in the forest and record his impressions in the notebook. As soon as he stepped into the dense woods, he felt an unusual chill and heaviness. The air was thick, as if he had to pull each breath from the forest. Alexei brushed off his feelings and kept walking. The deeper he went, the stronger the feeling grew that someone was watching him. Alexei stopped a few times and turned around, shining his flashlight over the trees. He saw only shadows, swaying with his light, but he couldn't shake the impression that something or someone was standing nearby, silently watching him. To calm his nerves, he began jotting down his thoughts, noting that he hadn't encountered any spirits so far, but the forest had a truly eerie atmosphere. Suddenly, very close by, he heard a whisper coming from between the trees. At first, he thought it was just the wind, but the words he heard were unmistakable. They were quiet, but distinct. And the scariest part, they were saying his name. Alexei. He froze, feeling his mouth go dry. The whisper repeated, moving slightly, calling him to go deeper into the forest. He knew it wasn't possible, but fear began to feel like a game. Alexei decided to follow the sound, hoping to find out who was playing tricks on him. Following the whisper, Alexei stumbled upon an old, abandoned campsite. It seemed people had once been there. Torn tents, an ash-cold fire, and scattered belongings, now overgrown with moss. On the ground, he saw a crumpled piece of paper. The note, stained with dirt and partially torn, held a few decipherable words. "If you hear the whisper, run. They're coming for you." He looked around, feeling a chill run down his spine. A cold breath brushed his neck, and he instantly spun around but saw no one. Terrified, Alexei turned to run back, but the forest had changed. The path he'd come down was gone, and the trees seemed to close in, blocking his way. The whisper grew louder, more aggressive, as if 100 voices were murmuring warnings about danger, telling him it was too late to turn back. The branches seemed to reach for him, grasping at his clothes like hands trying to hold him in place. Looking around in panic, Alexei ran, but every step seemed to pull him deeper into the forest. Finally, he stopped, breathless and exhausted, realizing he couldn't find a way out. Then he saw her, a tall figure in a white dress with hollow eyes, standing among the trees, staring at him. Her skin was ghostly pale, and her mouth let out the same whisper that had chased him. She extended her hand, and the forest seemed to come alive around him. The leaves trembled, the wind howled, and the trees leaned as if bowing to her. Her voice filled his mind. "You're mine. No one returns." Alexei froze, paralyzed with fear, realizing he would never leave this forest. Surrounding him were dozens of ghostly figures just like her, all the others who had gotten lost there before him. They looked at him with empty eyes, faces frozen in different expressions. Pain, fear, despair. One of the spirits whispered, "We were all you once." With those words, the dim lights around him began to fade, leaving him in complete darkness. The next day, his friends came looking for him in the forest, but all they found were his flashlight and notebook left among the trees. People say that sometimes you can hear a whisper in the woods, softly calling Alexei's name, and if you listen long enough, you might even hear your own.